I'm not going to buy one. There's no question that I didn't buy one.
Yeah, I suppose there is a slight question that I could have maybe bought one.
You've had a couple days now, so did you buy an Apple Vision Pro?
No, I did not buy an Apple Vision Pro. It is taking a little bit of great personal restraint to not buy an Apple Vision Pro, but I am interested in going and trying one at the Apple Store.
The demo sounds really cool. I did listen to ATP and them talk about the demo at the Apple Store, and I am slightly enticed to do that.
Yeah, I have no intention of buying this thing because I know that in 18 months or whatever, there's going to be one that's 5 times better. And then in another 3 years after that, there's going to be one that's 50 times better than the one today. So I'm holding off.
Have we been saying it right? I don't want to get attacked by the Apple police.
Yeah, it's Apple Vision Pro, very specifically.
Not Vision Pro.
There's no Vision Pro.
It's not the
Apple Vision Pro.
Not Vision. Not the Apple Vision.
It's definitely not the Apple headset. Don't call it that.
Welcome to Pride and Accomplishment. My name is Jason.
And I'm Chris. This is episode 120.
I've been on vacation for a week and have been, Chris, I don't know if you do this. You maybe do this with podcasts, but I certainly do this with YouTube videos where during the vacation while I'm out for a week, I the backlog just totally grows and you're just so far behind. And I'm a little behind with podcasts, but I was so far behind with YouTube videos in the last week because I just didn't watch any while I was on vacation. I have had a chance to watch the PlayStation, what is it, State of Play, the first kind of video, the first thing they did. And there were some cool things there, but then I heard that they were doing a whole Final Fantasy VII thing, and I did not get a chance to watch that.
Yeah, in a role reversal there, I did not watch the PlayStation State of Play, but I did watch the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth kind of hype State of Play, I guess you'd call it. They do these for their big first-party games or first-party exclusives where they will do an entire State of Play video for, 15 to 30 minutes where they highlight different things about their upcoming game. They did one for Horizon. I think they did one for God of War. So I think they probably did one for the first Final Fantasy VII remake. But now they're doing one for Rebirth, or they did one for Rebirth.
I didn't have a whole lot to say about the State of Play. I mean, there were some cool things. There was one, I'll call it a Bayonetta looking game. I don't know what the name of it was. I wish I knew offhand at this moment. That looked much more interesting than I have previously had interest in that genre of game. It's art style was much more in line with what I like. But other than that, I mean, there was some other previews and Death Stranding 2, if you're into that. None of it really spoke to me, and I feel like I'm going to get, added for that, but whatever.
I feel like I looked at a quick article about them and I scrolled through and was none of these look like they're really my kind of thing. But I should probably go back and find a proper list or maybe watch it. But yeah, and nothing really jumped out. Nothing rose to my news bubble. So I wasn't really worried about it.
Oh, you know what did look really interesting to me? And I'm surprised I've never played this before, but I am now going to pay attention is Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, the art style and the demo that they showed, I was like, I feel like I should like this game. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm literally reading a recap right now. Sonic Generations or Sonic Shadow Generations, that looks really fun. But the one I was speaking to earlier was Stellar Blade. That was the melee combat-y female hero kind of game. I don't know how to characterize these. I don't know what to call them, but it looked very interesting, and the art style, I'll call it the color scheme. I don't know. I always think of really dark, Final Fantasy is really dark in my mind, and Bayonetta is really dark. And it's always about monsters and the bad and the evil, and it's really dark. This one seemed, I don't know, at least from the trailer, seemed much more bright, and I don't know, just kind of, it drew me in a little bit.
Yeah, I've never played Bayonetta. I remember when it first came out, it was a GameCube exclusive or something, and that was a big deal because it was very much not a GameCube kind of game. But I've never played it.
In any case, I didn't get to see the Final Fantasy VII thing. Did you? I mean, you've pre-ordered this game. I would, okay, if I would have pre-ordered this game, I would have chosen not to watch this because I don't want anything spoiled. So why you chose to watch this?
I did. And part of it was just like opportunistic timing. Like it was happening like on a time when I was like looking for something to watch, and it was like starting in 2 minutes. I was like, oh, okay, I'll click this button. And that was part of it. Another part of it was I feel like I am fairly resistant to spoilers because I don't remember half the things that happen in trailers anyway, if I'm not super plugged into the story ahead of time. So I don't think that was as big of a thing for me. But also because at the very beginning, the reason I stuck around to the end really was at the very beginning of this thing, they said, oh, and stick around, we have a very special announcement coming at the end. And you know me, I'm thinking a very special announcement. What could it be? And of course, I'm thinking Final Fantasy IX remake or something, which would be very unusual because they would want to be hyping the thing that they're hyping. But like, you know, it was all the Square people, all the Final Fantasy people. I was like, maybe these Final Fantasy people have a cross promotion for another Final Fantasy project that I'm very interested in that I don't know if it's happening or not. So I'll spoiler this whole thing and jump to the end and say the surprise was not, in fact, Final Fantasy IX remake. It was or Rebirth or anything. It was the demo for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was coming out that day.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it. So that's funny. I didn't realize that's what you were. That it's still a good surprise, though. I mean, they essentially shadow dropped the demo, right?
Yeah, and I believe that the demo progress carries over to the full game. So it's another one of those kind of like 16 where like you can play basically the first 2 hours of the game and then just pick up from there when you get the game. So I'm intrigued by that. I have not played it yet, but I was glad to hear that was kind of an option. So maybe I'll get there. Right now I'm working through Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, the Yuffie, like intermediate DLC thing that happened that I got for free when I pre-ordered this game. I'm still like at the very beginning of it because I'm really having trouble getting into it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the full game to come, but I'm having trouble with the kind of intermediate content between. So, oh well.
I don't remember where I heard it, but maybe it was the demo. Maybe it was someone was playing the demo. But they said the first bit of Final Fantasy VII is just incredible. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just incredible. Am I thinking of something that you have also seen?
I have heard the same thing. And I believe it came up in one of the Discords that we were both in. Somebody who had played it said that it was knock your socks off amazing. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, if the progress carries over, essentially it's a start early thing. So I assume you're gonna do that here soon.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for the right time, like just for my availability, because I've had a couple busy weekends and like haven't really had time to like, you know, because it's kind of a commitment to sit down and start a Final Fantasy game. You're like, do I have 3 hours to put into this right now?
I know. I had to try to start God of War the other day, remember?
Exactly. So I'm kind of in that stage right now where it's like this feels like a commitment and I can't commit to this amount of time right now. So I haven't done it yet. But I am looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that maybe the weekend before it comes out, because I think it comes out on a Friday, the weekend before it comes out, I might get a chance to give it a shot.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, you don't want to like start it and then get the demo done and blow through the whole demo, and then still 2 more weeks till the game comes out. Like you kind of want the natural progression. Oh, you mean you don't
want to play the first 30 minutes of God of War and then not play it for 2 years and then...
Yeah, that's not the experience I'm going for.
I'm really good at that.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Okay, well, we'll hear, I guess, in 2 weeks or so. And it comes out the 29th. So our next episode may be right around when you're playing the demo.
Yeah. I'll say maybe I'll try to get the demo started before our next episode. So speaking of trailers and announcements and things that have come out in the last couple weeks while you've been away and I've been really busy, there was this one trailer that came out from, I think it was an Xbox Direct or something, or maybe it was just a trailer drop. I don't remember. But it really caught my eye, and I thought it was kind of up my alley at least, and hopefully something you're at least a little bit interested in. And that was the trailer for the new Indiana Jones game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, being published by Bethesda, I think, and it's being created by the game studio that does the recent Wolfenstein games. So I had us watch the trailer before this episode, and now I hope we have some thoughts.
Oh, I have thoughts. You are right. It was during an Xbox Direct that happened in January, and I think it was right at the end. It was the last thing they showed.
Yeah, because it was the big reveal.
Yeah, it was the big. Yeah, this is kind of the big one for them right now. I don't know if it's being published by Bethesda or if just Todd Howard is the executive producer on it, or whatever you call it for games. Because his name is like in the trailer, like his name, not Bethesda, but his name.
I thought there was a Bethesda name in there somewhere.
Maybe there was. I don't know. But yeah, no, the trailer. You know what? Just right off the top, the trailer was a very good trailer.
Yes, it is an excellent trailer for an Indiana Jones. What you want from an Indiana Jones game, I would say.
Yep,
I think.
Yep. I am generally not I don't know. I think maybe there's a bad taste in my mouth from like the crossovers, right? A lot of times games get made into movies, and a lot of times they're not very good. That has been changing in recent time. Like recently, it seems to be getting a little better. You've played a lot more of like the Tomb Raiders and the puzzly adventure, Indiana Jones parallel kind of games. So I think the game itself is much more up your alley. I like Indiana Jones in the movies. Like I've seen all of the movies, the good ones and the bad ones, the horrific ones, but the good ones too. I mean, the Indiana Jones is a good character. He's a cool, like fun, funny character and a good kind of world that he lives in. So I think it's a really good, like, story to turn into a video game. I loved this trailer. You have it kind of down the list a little bit, but the music in this trailer is really what did it for me. The Indiana Jones music is just perfect. It's just amazing. And this trailer does a really nice job of being very, I wouldn't even call it in your face, but like it's almost the opposite of that. It's like very clearly Indiana Jones music, but it's so subtle. And I just loved it.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you want somebody to do when they have this IP, like when they have the opportunity to make an Indiana Jones game. You want them to kind of treat it with care and like cleverness and not beat you over the head with it. And I think that's what this is. Like, I think it really is. It's like respecting the audience and not being like, hey, you guys like Indiana Jones, right? So we're going to put everything in the Indiana Jones font on all of the UI. And like, we're going to do all of this. Like, that's the tie-in game from the Super Nintendo era. Like that's what they would do. But like now the system is a lot better now, but like it just has the respect for the IP, I think. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And on that point, right. Like I think we'll get into maybe some of the plot setup a little bit, but like just from a very high level, the respect for kind of the classic Indiana Jones, because they've been doing some recent stuff. They've got that really dumb Shia LaBeouf movie. But even the recent one that was pretty good. I can't remember what the most recent one was.
Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, it was decent. It wasn't a bad movie, but they added a lot of new characters and they brought back some old ones. And it was a good movie. It was kind of a good, like, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones kind of, he's old now kind of movie. Right. But it didn't feel classic, and that's okay because it wasn't going for it. This trailer and for the game that they showed off, for the story that they wanted to show off, felt and was very cool how classic it was.
Yeah, it has the vibe of like I don't know what era Indiana Jones, like I guess it would be like the 40s, right? The 1940s. Based on like, I'm thinking like Last Crusade and that kind of thing, Raiders of the Lost Ark, just based on the World War II kind of backdrop that those have, it would be somewhere in the 1940s. So this has that same kind of thing from a technological standpoint, and from like, everything looks very believable. Like it's a very physical world, or at least it seems to be. But then of course they layer on the Indiana Jones-ness of it, because you have to have the MacGuffins and the things to go after and all of that stuff. So they seem to have done that as well, as you would expect. There is still time, though. There could be some aliens hiding that we don't know about. Like, we could just see some straight up magic like going on here.
Please, no. That was bad. That was bad. Were you impressed by the faces? I mean, there's always a lot of, like the media tends to focus on like, oh, how good are the facial expressions and stuff. But I would say watching this trailer, like they didn't shy away from it. Like they shot the cutscenes of what they showed in the video game, or in the trailer at least, like a movie, and like there were close-ups, and those close-ups were, I mean, they weren't perfect, but they were impressive. Like that, I mean, that looked like Harrison Ford, and the people playing other characters looked good. I mean, like that, it looked, like a good CGI close-up of, characters in a movie.
Yeah, I agree. So the trailer opens on like a very close up view of a bad guy talking to Indiana Jones, right? And when I was looking at that, and the guy has like a bandage on his nose and he's wearing glasses, and I was looking for artifacting and like, do the glasses go through his nose? Like, is there anything that would give it away? And obviously they're going to pick their best stuff for a trailer, but still, I felt like, okay, this is a, you can tell it's a video game. It's not, not a movie. But it is a very, very good like facial representation, and the expressions and the animations and all of it. It's exactly what you would expect from a AAA game in this kind of adventurer genre, and I was very impressed. One thing I wanted to point out about this one is that the visuals are the likeness of, Harrison Ford when he was in the first 3 Indiana Jones movies. So it's him when he's 30. But the voice acting is not him, right? The voice acting is not Harrison Ford, because Harrison Ford's voice is different than it was back then. So they actually got...
He's 90 years old now?
He's very old, yes. So they got a different voice actor, and they got Troy Baker, who is a kind of notable voice actor, to be Harrison Ford. And he does a pretty good job, I think. He sounds very believable if you didn't think about it too hard.
Yeah, there are a few moments where you're like, okay, that's not Harrison Ford, but like overall, you're like, okay, all right. I like, once you kind of get past the first initial, like that's not actually Harrison Ford, you're like, but that sounds really close. And as the trailer goes on, you kind of forget that it's not him, and you kind of accept that is the voice of Indiana Jones. So I think he does a really nice job of getting as close as he can, to the point where after, I don't know, for me, it was like 10 seconds. It was like, okay, that's his voice.
Yeah, I think this is much more believable than when they did Avengers, and they had somebody play Tony Stark who was like very much not Robert Downey Jr., and it was like very obvious, and it kind of drove me nuts. I didn't really play the game, but I remember the trailers. I was like, that's not Iron Man. It didn't look like him either, but it was just weird. So this one, at least, they're going for somebody who looks like and tries to sound like the source material from the movies that you're familiar with. When I was watching this trailer, they showed a little bit of gameplay, right? They showed different things about what you do and kind of how you do it. And they showed some of the puzzles that you get to do. So this is not just, a kind of hack and slash thing, right? Part of the charm of Indiana Jones is that he beats up bad guys in clever ways, but also he has to like solve all these like ancient riddles and like crazy things that obviously ancient civilizations somehow had the technology to put together big counterweighted traps and all sorts of crazy things that are, very difficult to solve and everything else. And to me, this played straight into what the Uncharted games have done, which were essentially copying Indiana Jones. So everything old is new again. But these looked like very Uncharted-like puzzles and very big kind of set pieces. And I am very excited about more of that, because as far as everybody can tell, Naughty Dog is done with Uncharted for a while. So this is kind of the next best thing. And I mean, it's got Indiana Jones, so that's great. But I'm very excited for these puzzles and looking forward to kind of working through some of that puzzle solving stuff in another video game.
Yeah, you've always been super complimentary of the Uncharted games, and like you said, they were the Indiana Jones of, what was it, PlayStation? And they were the Indiana Jones of the PlayStations. Right. And this is Microsoft and Xbox's response to that. So I'm hoping they live up to them. I don't know if the Wolfenstein games were puzzle games. I don't know if they had puzzles to them. I remember them more as like war, and I don't know, maybe I don't know. I never played them, but I'm just going off of what I remember from trailers and such. So I'm hoping that doesn't manifest itself in not as quality puzzles, but I don't think so. I still think it's possible and something to look forward to. I will say I would like to transition here, and Chris is going to roll his eyes, but I don't. We were typing out the show notes, and we were putting our comments, and I typed out just the words first person. Because I noticed during the trailer, and I have heard some other coverage of this game, that the like non-adventure portions of it were first person, and some cutscenes and other areas are third person. Very similar to what I think is like Destiny, right? Destiny 2, where like in the tower you're third person, but overall you're first person. And I don't love that.
I think
it's Indiana Jones, man. Like, it's not like first. Sorry, go ahead. What do you go? You go ahead, and then I'll come back. I'll come back.
Okay, I was just gonna say I agree with you. Like, usually the first person, third person debate here is very the lines are drawn thickly, but in this case, I agree that I would prefer, I think, to play from a third person's perspective, because that's what Uncharted does. Uncharted is fully third person. But I will say that I think this is an interesting take on it. And when you typed in that thing, first person, I didn't even realize, like, I forgot like that they showed some combat stuff and that the combat was in first person. And that some of the puzzle stuff was in first person also. Because in the trailer, they switch between first and third person so often that like I could believe that, like, okay, fine, yeah, this is Indiana Jones doing his thing. Like, we're controlling him, but like Indiana Jones is doing this stuff. I hope that the perspective here will change enough between, and also that the voice lines and all the other things, like, it will be enough third person mixed in or otherwise involved such that it is not egregious that it is played in first person for the most part.
I think it's going to be played almost exclusively in first person, and what we were seeing a lot of is the cutscenes, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get a lot of gameplay in first person, but based on what I see from the trailer, I'm hoping that we don't have a lot of gameplay in general. Well, it's one of those stories that you see a lot of cutscene. I'm thinking like Final Fantasy 16 right now, where like half the game is cutscenes, which I would be totally fine with. I'd be totally fine, because I have a point to make on that in a second. But what your first person games exist for two reasons. One, for shooters, because it's just easier to like, that's aim. It's a genre of game, right? Like, it's an aiming, whatever. You can do it. I mean, Fortnite and other games do it, where you're third person, but it's just not the same. So I get it. First person, exists for a genre reason, but from a story reason, the reason you're first person is because you're pretending to be that person. And in no world am I Indiana Jones. I'm never pretending to be Indiana Jones. I want to see and maybe experience Indiana Jones's story. And from a story perspective, it makes no sense to me that this game is first person.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll bite. But I also was thinking, as I was watching it, because I was thinking, where do I fall on the first person, third person debate, as I was rewatching some of it. I was looking at one of the things they did, and they did kind of the classic, like, you got to stick your hand in a hole where you can't see what's going on, and you got to like grab and turn like a knob or something. I'm like, that's a little bit more compelling in a first person perspective, because you think about like, oh no, I don't want to put my hand in that thing, because like, what if my hand gets cut off or something, right? That would be.
It's not my hand. It's Indiana Jones's hand.
Okay, fine. And the argument though really would lend itself much better to a VR experience. Like if you were VR Indiana Jones, because then you really could be like, okay, I am role playing as Indiana Jones here. But I am happy that I'm hoping none of the cutscenes are like me standing there in first person and somebody saying Dr. Jones, blah, blah, blah. Cause like, I'm not Dr. Jones. Like, I want to see that in third person, but I think I'm not going to care that much in the kind of between the cutscenes gameplay experience, whether it's first or third person.
I think it made sense why they did it. If you watch, obviously he's got the whip as a weapon, and they're kind of trying to play into that, and it seems kind of cool. And there's some, obviously a lot of it's melee with throwing punches and whatnot. And that's, I don't know, it's kind of cool first person, but I feel like I would like that just as much in third person, if not more. But I see what they're trying to do. I just don't agree with it. So I mean, I don't think it's going to prevent me. Like if the game reviews really well and it's a good puzzle game and all that, I don't think it's going to prevent me from purchasing it. I would have preferred a different perspective.
Well, I think this is a good time for me to just mention that this game is also going to be on Game Pass, so you don't have to buy it.
Oh, wonderful. Great. I get to try it for free.
Exactly. And it's coming out in 2024, so it'll be before you have to pay for Game Pass, so no worries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the end of 2024, right? It's like the Christmas or holiday blockbuster for Xbox.
I mean, they
Microsoft?
didn't say it, but they said 2024, but one has to imagine that, it's probably coming as late as possible in 2024.
The only other thing I was going to mention is, as you're watching this trailer for this video game, I'm thinking in the back of my head, this is cool and all, but do I want another Indiana Jones? If I got something else Indiana Jones that's good and classic and like sarcastic and funny and quippy like Indiana Jones, do I want a video game or do I really just want another movie? And that's kind of where I was going with some of this cutscene stuff is I personally feel like if I'm going to consume some kind of Indiana Jones content, I personally feel like I would just want another movie. So I'm hoping that this game, I'm fine that they've chosen to make a game. I think it's cool and it's fun, but I'm hoping that this game airs very much on the side of a ton of cutscenes with a little bit of gameplay in between, because that's what I kind of want from this. I don't know if you share that opinion though.
I would rather have, if I was picking the perfect Indiana Jones game for me, I would be with you on I want lots of cutscenes because I want lots of quippy Indiana Jones stuff because that's what makes Indiana Jones entertaining. But what I would also want is basically for them to hand me the controller every time Indiana Jones has to do anything puzzly. Anytime he has to
Sure.
go and brush dust off of something and look at a map and figure out some game thingy, or they showed in the trailers adjusting gears and stuff. Let me do that. Let that be the gameplay here. Give me, I don't know, an hour and a half of cutscenes and then 3 or 4 or 5 hours of puzzle solving and 1 hour of fighting in a game and a 10-hour game, and I'd be happy. But
Yeah, I agree with you. Not a lot of fighting. I don't want to do that.
I don't care, right? I mean, yeah, whips are cool, whatever, but it's not. That's not what I want. The fighting in an Indiana Jones movie is the least strong part of an Indiana Jones movie. They tend to have very long cutscenes or fight scenes, and they're okay.
Well, and they typically either they're never true fighting scenes, right? It's always, he's not a fighter. He's got a whip,
he's a runner,
which he uses to his advantage, and then otherwise just very cleverly runs and avoids things, and fights and punches and physically gets himself out of a situation very rarely, and that's what I want. But I don't want a sneaky game either, right? I don't want to. No one likes the stealth level. So I'm really I'm hoping that they understand that, and the trailer seemed to only show very little of that, and I'm hoping that that's what happens in the game too.
Yeah, no, I hope they have a good balance. And I mean, the trailer was mostly cutscenes and puzzles and a little bit of combat. So maybe they're on the right track there, but we'll have to see, I guess, what shakes out. But I definitely will be playing this one on my PC because it's on Game Pass and I have Game Pass. So and I have a 4090, so I will be playing it on PC. But otherwise, it's an Xbox exclusive.
Did you set me up for that transition, Chris? Is that what you were trying to do there, where you were like, "Oh, Xbox exclusive," and then I was supposed to ask, "Oh, but are Xboxes even going to exist in 2024?" Is that what you wanted me to do?
Not quite. I actually wanted you to ask me if I would play it on a PlayStation if I could.
Oh, okay. Well, I could do that. Yeah. Would you play it on a PlayStation if you could? Because who knows? It might not be an Xbox exclusive come a year after that.
Right. So I think I would buy this on the PlayStation, on PS5. Like, I just got done saying that I want to play it on PC because it's on Game Pass and because I have a 4090 and yada yada. But like, this is the classic example of a couch game, like of a game that I would want to play on a couch. And if I tried it on Game Pass and liked it, there is a decent chance that I would be tempted to get this on the PlayStation and play it on PS5 alongside my Uncharted games, right? And have those things kind of all be in one place and play them with a PlayStation controller and all of that. I would prefer it to play it on the PlayStation, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I feel you. I think this goes right along with those single player games that feel best on a couch.
But that being said, this trailer and kind of some rumors surrounding it have kind of broken the internet, at least the gaming discourse internet, in rumors that this might not be a Microsoft exclusive for long, and that like Microsoft may not be interested in kind of being in the console space for much longer, which I think is a little bit of a leap. But I guess whatever. What do you think about that?
I've heard this. And I don't know. I think there was some rumors that Starfield is not going to be an Xbox exclusive forever, or at least not a Microsoft exclusive forever, right? Talking about bringing Starfield to the PlayStation. The other big one that I've heard a lot about is Sea of Thieves, right? Bringing Sea of Thieves to PlayStation as well. That's been an Xbox or Microsoft exclusive since it came out, and that's been out for what, 4, 5, 6 years now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sea of Thieves coming cross-platform makes total sense because
It's
Absolutely. Like that live service kind of thing. It's like, you you want as many players as you can get to play your free-to-play game. Or well, it's not free-to-play, though. You pay for it. I'm skewed by Game Pass. Yeah. But it doesn't have an ongoing cost or anything. And it's like, once you buy it once for relatively cheap, you kind of just, it's free. But anyway, you want people to come in and buy your battle pass and get your cosmetics and do that. And it's a fun game. And I would love to play it. I'd play it on PC, but like people that only have a PlayStation, I would love to play Sea of Thieves with them too. Like that would be cool. So I say the more the merrier on that one.
I agree. But basically all the talk is about the Microsoft subtly, but very like poignantly maybe shifting its rhetoric from a platform to a publisher. And I don't think that it's the wrong move necessarily for Microsoft, but I do think it'll have some impacts from a competition standpoint. So I tend to like the move from the Microsoft perspective. I think it's probably like they've kind of admitted that they lost the console war, and they're right. But at the same time, I don't think like they may have been claiming that they've been trying to win the console war, but they just haven't. I mean, they like their actions have spoken otherwise, because they've published this store now, right? I mean, Game Pass is essentially a store, right? It's a Netflix. It's a platform for, games, but it's not a platform for playing games. That allowed everyone to move to PC, that wanted to move to PC pretty freely. And we called it, Chris. I just want to say this, that we called it on this podcast probably a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe when we were buying our PlayStation 5s, where we said you're going to need a PC, a PS5, and a Switch. You don't need an Xbox, because Microsoft has made it very clear that they're bringing everything over to PC. But this is the rumors that are happening now is taking it a step further and saying, oh, they're not even going to make an Xbox anymore. I don't think we're getting to that point. They are kind of, there's a lot of rumors about, it going digital only and blah, 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 and them really turning into like a Steam, right? They just want to be like a store and a publisher. But I don't think, or Valve, and Steam, whatever. But none of this is unexpected for me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, we called it, we saw this coming. I'm not particularly disappointed or sad, and I don't think it's going to be very damaging to kind of the whole landscape. But I do think that there's going to be a certain element of, if they're just not trying anymore, then you really only have one, I don't want to call it AAA, but like one like PlayStation isn't competing with anyone anymore because like Switch and Nintendo are in their own class. PlayStation and Xbox were kind of competing with each other, and that just if Microsoft just kind of cedes that market to from the console perspective and turns into this more publishing and game studio, then what does PlayStation have to live up to anymore? So I guess those are all my thoughts wrapped into one. I don't feel very strongly. It's a lot of rumors, so we really don't know anything. But you're right; it has kind of taken the internet by storm.
I share your general sentiment about I think I said it that all you need is a PlayStation, a PC, and a Switch. I'm a little bit sad to have been so correct about that, potentially, because I actually do think that the existence of the competition between PlayStation and Xbox makes Sony have to try, because when Sony is kind of uncontested, they are very slow to do updates. They're like, they just kind of sit on their laurels and gloat almost. Like they don't.
Yeah, it's almost like Nintendo.
Yeah, they don't really push forward, right? Sony doesn't really push forward unless they have to. In certain ways. Obviously, the PS5, it's Marvel engineering, yada yada. Like, it's great. I'm sure the PS6 will be amazing too. But the I'm talking kind of more of the non-game playing aspects of it, like the UI and like Discord integration and features and HUDs and that kind of thing for the console itself. I think that they would do better to have some competition there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great example is like, for the longest time, PlayStation and Sony just would not allow crossplay, not even with PC.
Right.
And it just wasn't a thing. And I think the competition and the market and the player base kind of said, well, you have to. Like,
right.
it's starting to be so detrimental that you have to. But if they don't have another console to compete with, does that pressure get a lot lighter? And I think maybe it does. But that was a great example of the market pressuring them, where that pressure may not exist if there's not another competing console.
I think that there's another angle to this story, which I'm sure that people have talked about in other places, but I haven't heard them talk about it, and I'm gonna pretend like this is an original idea, which is that Microsoft could stick in the medium to low end console market, because if you think about all the consoles these days are basically just PCs, and Microsoft is good at PCs and PC operating systems, and they already have an operating system, right? They already have the Xbox OS or whatever it is, which I'm sure is based on Windows 11 or Windows 10 or something. So if they're going to keep making Windows and keep doing games, they've already put the Xbox branding on PCs. They could either sell medium end PCs as a form factor, or they could just keep making the Xbox Series S and have that be, like you said, digital only and medium specs or maybe medium high specs or something, and just have that be kind of an anchor point in the kind of like Steam Deck is, it certainly runs as a PC, but it's like a target hardware thing. So you could say okay, we target Steam Deck, we target Xbox Series S, and we target crazy gaming PC with a 4090 and $1,000 Intel CPU, right? And those could be your performance targets for your minimum and recommended specs. And I don't know, maybe there's some opportunity there where Microsoft doesn't get out of the game entirely, but they provide a little bit of diversification in the living room on the gaming side of things.
I love that idea. I think that's I think that's a great idea. I wonder if they get out of the Xbox market and get more into the, I don't want to say it, the handheld, but the Steam Deck market, or the even the pre-built PC market. I think the Xbox name and the Microsoft name, I mean, they do the Surface line, right? They do the Surface laptop line.
Yep.
I can absolutely imagine them coming out with an Xbox gaming laptop line.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, it hasn't worked out great in the past with Alienware and Razer, but maybe if they can put the Microsoft hardware quality stamp on it, kind of a thing, then they have a good chance of that working.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I don't know if it'll work, but I think it's a good idea. I think that's the direction they're going, and I can't remember exactly when we said it, but we said that I don't know, a year ago or so when Xbox Game Pass really took off and Xbox Game Pass for PC started to become a thing. We said, Xbox is no longer a console. It's a brand. It's a gaming brand. And this is just another step in that direction, I think. Again, it's all rumor. We're all just speculating here. But the rhetoric has obviously started to shift a little bit from Xbox about exclusives and about their console, and and I think we're going to really find that we were right, and they're going to transition to something.
Well, have I got news for all of you listening? Today, as this episode posts, they are doing an Xbox podcast episode with Phil Spencer, who's the president of Xbox, and a couple other Xbox people I don't know the names of. But Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer is going to be on the Xbox podcast for an Xbox business update event thing on February 15th. So as our episode, if you're listening to our episode early, like right when it drops, then you should be able to tune in straight to the Xbox thing, which is coming on YouTube. The Xbox video podcast comes on YouTube. So look out for that today as you hear this.
Chris, do you have any other crazy predictions that are going to come true in a year? Because we seem to be very good at this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should just start rattling off some things. Switch 2 sometime this year. I'm going to put it right out there in the world.
That sounds more hopeful than prediction.
I'm very good at predicting these things, and there's definitely not a bunch of rumors about this. So Switch 2 coming in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah. No behind the scene looks or.
Yeah, exactly. Totally original idea right there. Just thinking, spitballing here.
If you have a prediction, see how what I did there? That's how I transitioned. Aha. If you have a prediction of your own that you would like to share with us, you can do so on our Discord, which you can get to at discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to find any of our older episodes where you can go back and find our previous predictions, or if you want to read our show notes, you can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
That was really clever. That was really good. I liked that. If you are enjoying the show, we would love if you could share it with some others that might enjoy it as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. So, Jason, I want to take us in the way back machine to very early P&A.
Yeah, I love when we do this. This is so much fun.
So I booked some flights recently, and it had me feeling some feelings. And I thought maybe we could talk about them, and I could explain the situation to you, and that you might appreciate this as well.
Okay, I book flights all the time, so this is interesting to me because I don't have particularly strong feelings about booking flights, but I do have some stories of my own that maybe we'll mix into this. How just for context, like how often you book flights fairly regularly, right? You're not I wouldn't say a frequent flyer, but you're a well-traveled flyer.
Yeah. No, I am no stranger to booking flights. I am very experienced with flying and like travel and all of that. I think I probably fly somewhere at least once a quarter, either for work or for personal reasons. And so, yeah, I've been flying for, 20 years. So I'm very, very experienced with like the act of the airport and TSA and all of it. But this was something more on the booking process because, you kind of get into a world where you're like comfortable, right? You get a couple of airlines that you typically book with, maybe you're trying to get points or status or whatever. And, you kind of get good at like, oh, I know how to navigate the United website or the Southwest website or the, whatever website, or Google Flights or whatever. So this was something that really kind of took me by surprise.
Okay. Can I ask a question first? And maybe you were just about to ask me that, but do you always start in a certain place?
Yeah. So I typically start with Southwest because I live in a place that's pretty close to a Southwest, like pseudo hub. So I can get a lot of places on Southwest. And also because Southwest does not participate in any aggregators. So Google Flights, Hopper, any of those kind of things do not show up with Southwest flights because they don't play nice with those. And that's part of their deal.
Yes. I always start with Google Flights. That's always my starting point.
Yeah, I Google Flights is second for me. Like that's where I'll go second.
Okay, so what happened here?
So I'm trying to book some vacation flights for the summer and going to Europe, right? So trying to find some flights to Europe, and flights are very expensive to get across the ocean right now for some reason. There's Paris Olympics, there's other things that we're not going to see the Olympics. So like, I don't really care what's going on in Paris, but anyway, we're trying to get over towards, other places. So I'm looking for this flight, and I find something, and I find a flight that I'm okay with. Like I feel like, oh yeah, this will be a good flight. The price is reasonable. It's expensive, but it's reasonable. And so I go and see this flight, and it's part of the it's on British Airways, right? And it's got a partnership. They're on part of the One World partnership, and they're with American. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'd rather book through American because like I can get American miles, and I don't really want British Airways Avios or whatever. So I want to book through American. So I go ahead and I'm like, okay, I'm going to book my flight, book through American, right? And
so you go to AA.com, right?
AA.com, yep, that's American Airlines.
You
Yep.
search the same flights, same dates, all that good stuff, right?
And it comes up at the same price as Google Flights was showing me, right? And so, and even that the British Airways flight was, website was showing. So I feel good, right? I'm like, okay, cool, great, love it, right? Cost is what I'm expecting. It's going to be fine. Go through the whole process. And I'm not looking at a basic economy ticket here, just to be clear. I am not looking at the, you can only come with like a backpack and nothing else, and you have to sit in the back of the plane and blah, 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 and we have to pick your seat for you, and it's going to be terrible, right? I'm paying for like a reasonable seat, like a good seat, right? Decent class and all of that. So we go through this whole process and book the flights and buy the tickets, and then they're like, okay, we're contacting British Airways, we're this is a reservation, we're going to email you when we have your actual tickets or whatever, and they do that, right? So far so good, right? Then I go,
okay,
I know, see, you're like, what could possibly go wrong at this point, right?
The anxiety is killing me. Where are you going with this?
I've done all the things, everything is going so well, right? So I finally get to the American Airlines. I'm looking at my booking, and it shows you all your stuff, and it's like, okay, here's your seats, and the seats are blanked out. There's nothing in the seats, right? And you're like, okay, fine. I guess I booked an American. It's on British Airways, whatever. I need to click this button and choose my seats because maybe American couldn't do it for me for some reason or whatever, right? Or they want to give me the choice. So I click this button, and they say, we're going to redirect you to British Airways, website. I'm like, okay, I guess. So they take me over there. And then British Airways is like, hey, if you want to pick a seat, you have to pay to pick your seat unless you want to wait until exactly 24 hours before, and then you can pick your seat for free. And I'm just like, come on, for a transatlantic flight? Like, this is crazy. Why? Why am I paying extra to my non-basic, seat? Like I had a not basic seat. I should be able to choose at least something, right? I should be able to kind of, sure, fine. You want to charge me extra for the extra row? Fine, whatever. I get it. But like to pick any seat, like if I want to get two seats together, I have to either pay you money now or wait and hope until 24 hours before my flight. This is crazy.
Was this defined to you at all while you were booking on American's website?
I did not notice this on American's website. I may have missed it, but I do not think it was disclosed at all.
Did you get to pick your seats when booking your flight in the American website flow?
No.
Okay, so you never actually clicked a seat.
No, I didn't. So I didn't think I was getting a particular seat, but I thought I was going to get to choose a seat.
That's okay. All right, I see where you're going.
Because if I have a non-basic seat, like on any American airline, any US based airline domestically, I expect to be able to at least see the seat map and like lock in something at the time of booking.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Even if you want to sit in the premium, whatever, right? You expect you get to choose, at least kind of have some.
It's the same thing when booking a cruise, right? Like you either book a room or you book, or for a different class, right? A different level, you can say, don't assign my room, just give me whatever.
Right. And I'll pay you less for the privilege.
Exactly. But you thought you paid, I guess, for the privilege of picking a specific seat during booking.
Exactly. Yes.
I have never experienced that problem. But I do a lot of booking on United.com for Air Canada. And I will say every time I book, I am able to choose my seat before I pay.
Oh, wow.
So that has kind of become my standard now, is if it's not asking me to choose my seat before I pay, I'm questioning.
Okay. See, and I'm very used to flying Southwest, like I said, who has open seating. So
Right.
anytime I fly somewhere where I have to choose a seat, which is usually for work or otherwise, like work already takes care of it, right? They have agreements or whatever, and it's never a problem. And the few times that I've flown personally, I've always been able to pick my seat as part of the flow to buy the ticket. So I've not really thought about that, because while I have flown a bunch, I have not flown where I have been responsible for making sure that I had the right combination of whatever to be able to pick my seat.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks. So what are you going to do? Are you going to pay the upgrade, or are you just going to cross your fingers?
I don't know. So like, part of me wants to be like, I'm not playing your game, right? I'm not going to be, I'm not paying the toll for this, right? And saying I'll just be very on top of it because I'm very good at that from Southwest, right? I know how to be 24 hours exactly to check in. But I would also imagine that there are a bunch of other people that will do the same thing if they've ever flown BA before and they know this, which I didn't. So now I'm like nervous that I'm going to get caught out. And, it's a long flight, right? It's 8+ hours, right? It's a long flight. So I would like to get the seats I want. So I am debating back and forth, trying to decide what I'm going to do about it. But it just left a bad taste, because I was just like, I booked these flights, I'm very excited. And then I go to pick my seats just to make sure that I get that checked off my list. And then they're like, oh, come back 24 hours before your flight and see what's left. And it's like, come on.